What would you do if you discovered that the safest place, your family, is also the most dangerous? It's a thought-provoking question that leads us to examine family ties critically. Today we will talk about a chilling story of abuse and silence, the case of Nicola and Sylvia. This story involves events so shocking that it's hard to believe they happened in an ordinary family. Stay tuned until the end because the final revelation will leave you speechless. But before we get into the story, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any of our content. Good vision. This is the story of Nicola, a 10-year-old boy, and his little sister Sylvia, just 2 years old. After the tragic loss of their parents in a car accident, the brothers were entrusted to the care of their Aunt Rosa and Uncle Luigi. On the surface, their family seemed perfect, an impeccable house and a beautiful garden. But behind this facade a very different reality was hidden. It all started slowly. Rosa and Luigi were cold and distant, treating the children more like a burden than part of the family. At first, they were episodes of indifference, such as forgetting to prepare lunch for Nicola or leaving Sylvia crying for hours in her bedroom. Nicola, although still young, took on the task of caring for her little sister, trying to do her best to fill the void left by the absence of their parents. The first few weeks were a mix of sadness and hope for the two children. Nicola, who had always looked up to his parents as his heroes, suddenly found himself in a responsible role. Despite his young age, he tried to do everything he could to maintain a sense of normality for Sylvia. He prepared breakfast, tried to play with her and consoled her when she cried at night, unable to understand why her mother and father were no longer there. The situation quickly worsened. The episodes of indifference turned into psychological and then physical abuse. Every day, Nicola and Sylvia had to face new difficulties, enduring insults and unfair punishments. Rosa was particularly cruel towards Nicola, accusing him of being a useless burden and blaming him for any domestic problems. Luigi, although less verbally aggressive, did nothing to protect the children and often participated in the physical punishments. Rosa and Luigi began to show a cruel coldness that went far beyond simple neglect. Meals were scarce and of poor quality, often just bread and water. The children were left alone for long periods, and when their aunt and uncle were present, it was as if Nicola and Sylvia were invisible, except when they needed to be punished or scolded. One evening, Sylvia found Rosa's lipstick and began playing with it, unaware of the consequences. When Rosa discovered the mess, she exploded in anger. Nicola, fearing for her sister's safety, tried to protect her by taking the blame. That night, Rosa and Luigi decided to punish Nicola in an exemplary way, locking him in a dark room without food or water for the whole night. The fear and hunger were unbearable, but Nicola found comfort in thinking about Sylvia and promising himself to always protect her. Nicola spent endless hours in that little room, with his mind wandering between fear and hope. He thought about his parents, imagined what they would have done in that situation and wondered why he had been abandoned to such a cruel fate. Every noise made his heart skip a beat, every minute seemed to last an eternity. Yet, the thought of Sylvia kept him steadfast, giving him the strength to resist. The days passed and the punishments became more and more severe. Nicola was often forced to work in the garden under the scorching sun, while Sylvia was relegated to a room, with few toys and no attention. The situation reached a climax when Rosa and Luigi threatened to punish the children physically. Rosa was furious because Nicola had not completed her household tasks adequately. His anger poured out on the children, with increasingly violent screams and threats. Nicola, panicked, barricaded himself and Sylvia in their room and called the police. His trembling voice explained the situation to the officers, and the police sirens approached, bringing hope of salvation. When the officers arrived, they freed the children and arrested Rosa and Luigi. The facade of perfection crumbled, revealing the truth. The children were taken away by social workers, who immediately realized the gravity of the situation and entrusted them to a temporary family. Have you ever known anyone who had a similar experience? Tell us in the comments. Your stories might help others find the courage to speak out. Before revealing the ending of this story, give a nice like and subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Your support allows us to continue telling these important stories. Nicola and Sylvia finally managed to escape from that house and find refuge in a safe place. With the help of professionals and friends, they began a long journey of recovery. The new foster family was made up of loving and understanding people, ready to welcome the children and offer them the family warmth they had lost. The new house was completely different from the one they had lived in with Rosa and Luigi. Every room was full of color and life, and the new foster parents did their best to make the children feel safe and loved. Nicola began attending a new school, where he found supportive teachers and accepting classmates. Nicola, despite the traumatic experiences, found the courage to talk to a psychologist, finally expressing the pain and fear he had kept inside himself. Each session was a step towards healing. She learned to process trauma, recognize her emotions, and find healthy ways to cope with them. Sylvia, although too young to fully understand, began to show signs of improvement, becoming more playful and less scared. The new family encouraged the children to participate in social and school activities, helping them to integrate and feel loved again. Thanks to therapy and constant support, Nicola and Sylvia began to recover a semblance of normality. Nicola excelled at school, becoming an example of resilience and determination. He also participated in extracurricular activities, where he discovered a passion for sports and art, vital channels for expressing repressed emotions. Sylvia, for her part, developed a love for music and dancing, finding in these activities an escape from the shadows of the past. Meanwhile, Rosa and Luigi were tried and convicted for their crimes. Nicola's testimonies and the evidence collected by social workers and the police were overwhelming. And what do you think? What would you have done in Nicola's place? Have you ever known anyone who had a similar experience? Share your opinion in the comments. It could give courage to others. Justice took its course, and the two were imprisoned, unable to do any more harm. The news of their conviction brought a sense of relief and closure to Nicola, who began to see a better future for himself and Sylvia.
The road to recovery was long and difficult, but with time and support, Nicola and Sylvia managed to overcome the obstacles. If the story moved you, we invite you to subscribe and watch the next video in this series. Thanks for following us and see you next time.